Hi, my name's Mike. Denny and I were roommates at Eastern Illinois University, and uh, it was the time of my life, and I think the time of his too. We were great, great friends and became just the closest, like brothers. He was like a big brother to me. I'm so thankful for my time that I had with him, and that was many years ago when we were roommates. But after that, our families still connected. It was interesting because we both had two girls and a boy, and oftentimes we would visit up in Elgin where Denny and Carol lived, and would spend time with them. And it was always interesting because Denny was so competitive with everything, and we played a lot of wiffle ball and one-on-one basketball. But I guess the biggest thing that we spent most time on was video games. Denny was a master and a star of all the video games. And because he was so competitive, I have to modestly say if he were here now, I probably wouldn't admit it, but he always beat me, no matter what we were playing. If it was if it was EA Sports and baseball, basketball, football, didn't matter. But there was this one day I remember we were up in Elgin with Denny and Carol and the kids, and the kids were playing, and my wife Bonnie and Carol were talking, and Denny and I were playing away. It was sometime in the afternoon, and we had started right after breakfast, I know. Finally, Denny put a game in. It was boxing, and I was able to beat him. And after all these games that we had played for hours, matter of fact, my thumb used to get sore from pushing on the buttons. I finally beat him, and it was real funny because it didn't happen often, and we said, let's take a break, and Denny says, because rest our thumbs for a minute, and he left the room, and we were there, and then a few minutes later, here he comes in, and his whole face was covered with Band-Aids, and he had this kind of Bronx gravelly voice, and he said, hey, I give up, you're too good. And I tell you what, we were all laughing. I was laughing, my wife Bonnie and Carol and the kids were all rolling on the floor laughing. Denny was always the kind of guy that made it life fun. He had a great sense of humor and probably one of the most creative and clever persons that I've ever known in my life. And I'm going to miss him. And he added great things to my life. I'm thankful to be able to say I was his friend.
One of my favorite memories growing up with Uncle Denny was the holiday time, whether it was Christmas or Thanksgiving or 4th of July. And Uncle Denny and the whole family would be over at our place. Sometimes they'd leave real late at night, about 11:30. And we had a big semicircle driveway. And it was always hilarious when Uncle Denny would think it was funny to drive around the semicircle 2, 3, 4 times, beeping the horn and flashing the lights. Seemed like the whole neighborhood would wake up to it at 11:30 at night. And the first time around the semicircle, Aunt Carol would be sitting in the passenger side and she'd be waving again goodbye. And the second time she'd kind of be like, and the third time she'd be like, and the fourth time you could see her looking over at Danny like, can we go now? It was always funny watching them do that before they leave, being with them in the holidays.
My name is Meredith, and I have been friends with Denny's daughter Katie since about 8th grade, which means I've known Denny for a long time. My name is Meredith, but I was always known to him as the Divine Miss M, which was a kind of a fun nickname he called me often. One of my favorite memories of Denny, there were many, but one of my favorite memories is the fact that as a cop, he was so protective of his family that he installed multiple locks on their front door of their house growing up. And as someone who regularly dropped Katie off at her house when I would drive her around in high school, and also someone who was polite enough to wait for her to get inside, it was just always kind of fun to watch her have to navigate all those locks to get into her house, because it always took her a little longer than the average person, thanks to Denny's protective nature. So he was a really great guy, and he'll definitely be missed.
Hi, I'm Alan or Van Jones. I'm Denny's brother. I'm 53 years old, and at the age of 14 in 1976, I just started my 8th grade year and was beginning my 2nd year of organized basketball. And in our family, as Denny would attest if he were here, my father always taught us, if you're going to play basketball, you better play it right or don't play it. Denny, knowing this and knowing that I was going into my 8th grade season, one day afternoon we were playing outside on our patio, he mentioned he'd bought a book on basketball. And it wasn't a skills book, it was a book about joys of basketball, and he wanted to bring it over so I could read it. About a week later, Denny brought over the book and gave it to me, and I found the book to be extremely well written and extremely motivational. But the one reason I kept it to this day, and believe me, as a 14-year-old, most boys wouldn't keep books that were given to them. I kept this book because Denny had inscribed something inside it for me, and I'd never had a book with an inscription. The name of the book is called Soft Touch, and I still recommend it today. It's out of print, I believe. The author is Don Linehan, but if you notice the inside of the cover, you'll see Denny took his time to write an inscription to me. There's not a mistake on the book. There's not a mistake on the inscription. And you can tell he rewrote this ahead of time and then printed it into the book for me. I won't take the time to read you the inscription, but I will tell you this. It was typical Denny. It was encouraging. It was uplifting. He shared his experiences with me in his inscription and wished me the best of luck when I played basketball in 8th grade and on into high school. I've kept this book to this day down in my, what I call a college trunk, where I keep things that are very memorable to me. And whenever I pick it out, the first thing I go to, of course, is the inscription. And I remember Denny. Denny spent the rest of his life and the rest of my life motivating me and motivating others. If you look at the front cover of the book, the irony of it is it says, Soft Touch, a sport that lets you touch life. I'll be the first to tell you, Denny's someone that didn't just touch life, he touched lives. He touched my life, he touched the lives of many others. I'm sure everyone in this room watching this video would attest to that as well. And I'm grateful to God and Jesus that he blessed me with a brother like Denny. Thank you.
Every 4th of July, our families would get together. And I remember Uncle Denny being at least one, if not the primary firework lighter out in the back of the house. And so I have this memory of him creeping towards the center of the basketball court while I was probably behind 1 or 18 chairs peeking over the edge, and he would extend his arm out as far as he could to light the firecracker before he'd run away. And I just remember thinking, glad it's not me.